Hello and welcome to this special discussion on the wire about the effects of demonetization on the economy. We've all seen over the last 22 days how demonetization has really disrupted the lives of people, and it has had profound effects on the economy in the short run, medium term. God knows what will happen in the longer run. Dr. Manmohan Singh said in the long run we are dead in Parliament. So to discuss some of the complexities of what lies ahead, we have with us a very eminent economist who's done extensive work on black economy, probably one of the few to have really studied India's black economy, the anatomy of black economy. Professor Arun Kumar, who taught at JNU and even now has keen interest in studying the evolution of India's black economy. Welcome to our show,
Thank you.
Professor Arun Kumar. You have been talking about this for not now. People are suddenly this is a new subject for many people,
Yeah.
but you've been talking about this for decades now.
Yeah.
Now, at this moment, as you see the whole situation, the economy, the way it's behaving, evolving, you have said, you were the first to say, in fact, that at the end of this whole exercise, there may not be much demonetization because the bulk of the money is getting pushed back into the banking system.
Right.
And you were the first to say probably 95% of the money, if it comes back into the banking system, it will be very embarrassing for the government because the government's objective was to attack, to begin with, the black component of the cash economy.
Correct.
So where do you see this going forward?
Okay, let me give an analogy, which I've been using very often now.
About the blood transfusion?
Yes.
Yeah.
Not transfusion.
Yeah.
You've withdrawn 85% of the blood
Very
from a
interesting.
body
Yeah.
and only put back 5% or 10% slowly.
Uh-huh.
Now, if that happens, the body will collapse.
Yeah.
The same thing is happening with the economy.
Yeah.
Money is actually used for circulation. Nobody eats the money. You
Yeah.
buy things with it, You buy from the retailer, who then buys from the wholesale dealer, then who buys from the producer, who then pays wages, and that's what circulates the thing. So this circulation is stopped. Now, when you stop the circulation, it means transactions don't take place. Whether it be in the unorganized sector, whether it be in the organized sector, whether it be transporters, whether it be, teachers doing tuition or doctors, so everybody gets affected.
So what is your sense about the deflation in economic activity?
Yeah, so that's what I was coming to, that therefore economic activity begins to cease. Because when people don't have money to pay for transactions, then transactions begin to slow down.
Yeah.
Also what has happened is that hoarding is taking place. Because currency is short, so people are hoarding to the small denomination currency notes, and 2,000 rupee currency notes are not circulating because people are not willing to take it, or if they need to buy something small, then they can't do it. Next, what has happened is that people have postponed discretionary spending. So if you wanted to buy a shirt, you say, okay, at the moment things are uncertain, I don't have cash, let me postpone it by 3 months. I have the money in the bank, but I don't have
they're
cash.
hoarding money, yeah.
And so they're hoarding money and also postponing discretionary expenditure. So whether it be for consumer durables, semi-durables, whether it be for FMCG goods, so everywhere demand is falling short. Now that affects a large-scale industry also. So even though large-scale industry may be able to transact in terms of credit cards and debit cards and may not be directly affected by cash shortage, they have money supply in the broader sense of money supply, but still the demand is being affected. That is affecting transporters, that is affecting wholesale dealers. So for instance, last week the Wholesale Trade Association said there are businesses down to 70%. Now suppose that's an exaggeration. Even if it's down by 20%, that's a huge drop.
Actually, you're right. Even the large industries, they have been coming on TV channels and saying that they're shutting their factories.
Right.
Some shifts are being, reduced.
So that is because
like
inventories,
two-wheelers, cement,
correct.
etc.
So that's because inventories are piling up. Because demand is not there, so inventories pile up. When inventories pile up, it's a signal that you have to cut back on production.
Temporarily cut back
Yes,
production.
when you cut back on production, then you retrench workers, and when that lasts for more than a month, then you begin to have more permanent effect. NPAs will increase because these industries, if profitability is hit for a month, then you can see that the NPAs will begin to increase.
That's why, Professor Arun Kumar, in the initial phase, there was a narrative that banks will gain from it.
Right.
So the bank stocks went up.
Yes.
But in the last 1 week, bank stock actually went down.
Correct.
There was a realization that banks are also not free from the economic
effects, the downturn, yes.
Yeah.
But there are also going to be other effects on the banking system which we can come to, because you see, this money that's gone back into the savings account, so to say, this is not really banks' money.
Yeah.
This is not something that they can use to cover their NPAs.
Yeah, they'll get withdrawn eventually.
They will get withdrawn, but also even at the moment, these are not their funds. These are the funds of the people who have deposited the money, on which they have to try and earn a return. If they don't earn a return on that, and they have to only pass it on to the Reserve Bank of India for replacement with new currency, then there'll be a loss to them also.
And finally, one argument of the government was that you suffer pain in the short term.
Right.
But in the medium term, long term, we will come up with a big fiscal boost.
Yes.
And partly from the money extinguished, black money extinguished.
Right,
they said 3
right.
lakh crore
Yeah.
will come into the government's hands through RBI dividends.
Right.
And then they will pump prime the economy. Now, even that possibility seems very remote. According to you, if 95% of the money gets pushed back into the banking system, there'll be hardly anything left for that fiscal space that the government was talking about.
So you're absolutely right. The RBI, it was expected that because the money that is issued, which is the currency in circulation, that's like a liability of the Reserve Bank of India, right? Assets are created by the government by floating bonds. Now, if the money doesn't come back, then the liabilities are going down and the assets remain the same. So there's a surplus.
Yeah.
And it was felt that that surplus could be utilized. However, most of the money is going to come back. Secondly, because of hoarding, the amount of money required in the economy will be larger than what is being withdrawn. Because this shortage is likely to continue. And we can discuss what kind of shortage is likely to continue. So they may have to print more than 14 lakh crores to take care of the shortages. You see, people's habits are being affected because people now be scared that what has happened this time, if it is repeated, then they'll be short. So in other words, they will have to print more than 14 lakh crores, in which case the liabilities will rise rather than fall. And therefore, there'll be no surplus for the Reserve Bank to distribute to the government. So this argument that the Reserve Bank will be able to give a special dividend, which the government can use to either cut down its fiscal deficit or to increase its expenditure on various things, that argument will not hold.
Is this why, Professor Arun Kumar, is this why Prime Minister Modi went to UP day before yesterday and said that the poor people in whose Jan Dhan accounts there is a lot of extra money.
Yes. They should not give it back to him.
Based on some benefactors or somebody trying to push some cash into their account.
Correct.
Should not give it back. So in a way, is it possible that the Prime Minister, realizing that he may not collect much in terms of fiscal surplus, he's trying to directly suggest that that people may not return this money to the benefactors?
Correct.
Is that could that be a kind of
so I think
possibility?
For that, we need to step back and see why this decision was made. I think this decision was made because the Prime Minister wanted to create a Robin Hood image that here, look at all these black money walas, they've earned illegal money, galat money, paisa aa gaya hai, and I'll give it to the poor. I'll give it to the poor in various ways. So this Robin Hood image, which is very important because that would be a sort of a permanent, great boost for the ruling government, that was not going to happen. So that is why now the Prime Minister thinks, in what other way can we do that? And so this Jan Dhan Yojana, where people have been putting in money in the account of the poor people and expecting them to withdraw it, that he thought would be another good way of saying, look, at least this much has been achieved. But this is very small. It's chicken feed. It's only 37,000 crores that has come in. So this is not going to create that kind of an image that it is. And then also we've seen in some cases, it was expected that people will put 10, 20, 30,000 rupees. But in some cases, people have put a few lakhs of rupees. Now, there may be some significant income tax thing, etc.
But you're right. In many accounts, in most accounts, it's below 49,000 rupees.
Right.
And some say employers may have paid 5-6 months, which is
advanced salary.
Been heard about.
Yes.
It's been heard
advanced
salary. In which case it will just get adjusted for the work in the next 5-6 months.
Absolutely right.
So there is no case for those account holders not returning the money to the
absolutely
benefactors
absolutely
or employers.
Right. Yes, quite right. And therefore we have to see for how long this disturbance could last. This disturbance, which is sudden withdrawal of currency in the economy.
What is your sense? Medium term. Give me a medium term sense.
So my sense is that they would have to print not only 14.5 lakh crores, but because of hoarding, maybe about 20 lakh crores. Okay. Second is that when you want to print currency which has been released in 15 years over a space of 4-5 months, you need a lot of paper, a lot of ink, and both are in short supply. You don't hold that kind of stock that what you are printing in a routine way, suddenly you're going to print 15 times more within a short space. So they have to tender for it. And the tender for ink was floated only about 7 days back. So it'll take a while for it to come back. And therefore, my own judgment is it'll not be less than 8 to 12 months before the currency shortage is overcome. Now, if the lead time is 8 to 12 months and currency shortage continues, then all kinds of transactions will get affected. And therefore, what could be a short-term effect will become a more medium and long-term effect. So for instance, initially, production is being affected, inventories are piling up, then production will get cut, then investment will slow down. So if this lasts for more than a month and a half, I suspect there'll be more permanent unemployment and more investment cut. As it is, investment was down. As it is, capacity utilization was down to 70 to 75%. That could drop to 50%. And if investment begins to slow down, then that will have long-term consequences. So then it would not be confined to Q3 and Q4, as some people are expecting, but it will last much longer. And if currency shortage continues for 8 to 12 months, then the effect will spill over into the next year as well. In which case, you are seeing a more long-term thing, because we are headed then into a recession.
Yeah.
Once these things begin to build up, demand falling,
So people are what you're suggesting is people are underestimating the role of psychology.
Yes, of
collective
course.
psychology in this whole economic behavior.
Yes. Absolutely right. A, psychology, and B, the macroeconomics of it. The macroeconomics of it is that if investment is cut in the coming 4, 5, 6 months, then that will have more long-lasting effect. Because investment is what then boosts demand. As it is, investment in India has been slow in the last 3, 4 years, and if it slows down any further, that will have very major consequences.
You're right. It came at a time when private investment was actually sluggish.
Correct.
It was so
Correct.
It was
Yes.
not picking up at all.
Yes, and some data seems to suggest that it had already fallen from about 32% to 29% per annum.
Yeah.
Okay, now of the GDP. Now, if that is already 29% and this effect comes in and it drops another 3-4 percentage point, then your demand shortfall will be much more long term and even longer.
And it also came at a time when rural wage growth had gone down virtually to 0%.
Correct. Yeah.
From a high of 17% some 3 years ago, right?
So you've had 2 droughts, because of which what you'd seen was that the agriculture had slowed down. This year the rainfall was good. It was expected that things would improve. But because of this particular problem of circulation, people didn't have money to actually buy seed, buy fertilizer, buy the water. Even where the seed was there and it was planted, buying water has been a problem, buying fertilizer has been a problem, because the kacha artiyas to whom the farmer sells doesn't have the money to pay. Now, temporarily they can make adjustment and get loans from the shops, etc. But that beyond a point cannot continue, and that's why many farmers are complaining that they haven't been able to sell produce. Now, there are 2 kinds of effect that will have. Prices in the rural areas will drop, and prices in urban areas may rise because the things are not moving to mandi and from mandi here. So you may see contrary effects, that rural distress will increase if the farm prices drop, and urban distress would increase because the prices have risen. Simultaneously, in the unorganized sector, in the urban areas, there's a lot of unemployment that's building up because small producers, cottage producers, they don't have the cash to buy working capital, to get without working capital, how to buy raw material, etc. So their unemployment is going. And the reports that therefore that kind of worker is migrating back to the village.
There's massive migration back
to the village.
Because what you just said is borne out by a news report I saw today, which says that in rural India, people are destroying their vegetables production, and the prices have actually crashed.
Correct.
Whereas in urban mandis, prices are still
beginning to rise, like wheat prices.
Wheat etc. gone up by 20%.
Right. So partly that was in the expectation that wheat sowing has slowed down. Therefore, the wheat output next year would be less, and now the wheat stocks are not as large as they used to be 3 years back.
Seem to be inching up.
In the urban again, the same expectation that if the sowing is delayed, then these.
So the next budget will be a huge challenge, right?
So the budget will be a huge challenge, no doubt. But the government is in a mode of denial. Government is denying that there will be effect beyond the.
But they are telling people that in the longer run there will be a huge
boost
improvement in the growth. Some economists, again government economists, are even suggesting that part of the black money which comes into the white will lead to an increased money multiplier and could result in higher growth. Would you buy that?
No, I don't buy that, because you see, this demonetization is not a mechanism by which black becomes white. Okay, we have to distinguish between black income, black savings, black wealth, and black cash. Okay, so first you make an income out of which you save. Savings then are invested, and that becomes your wealth. Now, the wealth is a portfolio of assets. cash is only a tiny percentage.
Yeah, it's
So therefore,
5-6%,
no,
right?
less than even 1%, I would say.
Okay.
Cash component is
Of
not
GDP or of
oh,
the
no,
total
of the black wealth.
Okay.
So according to my
The
latest,
government is giving a figure of 5 or 6% or something. Yeah.
that is of the GDP they're saying, but of the black wealth
Okay,
I'm
wealth,
saying.
okay.
So for instance, today, according to me, black economy is roughly 62% of GDP, which at today's GDP of 150 lakh crores would be about 93 lakh crores. Now black wealth would be at least 3 times more. So that would be about 300 lakh crores.
Okay, I get your point.
So,
Yeah. So
this
the-
3 lakh crores,
You're saying net very small.
net very small. So even if you demobilize this entire 3 lakh crore, you have got rid of only 1% of the black wealth and maybe 3.5% of the black income.
Yeah.
But because most of it is already rotated, okay, it's already been converted into white cash and to the new currency. Therefore,
right.
what you would be maybe demobilizing will be 0.1%.
So the point you're making is that even in the past, from the wealth component, black wealth,
Right.
money keeps coming back into the white economy, then
Yes.
keeps going back
Yes,
to black.
yes. It's
So
intertwined.
it's wrong to argue that for the first time something
Right.
will come into the white,
Yes.
right?
So the
Okay.
black economy and white economy are intertwined. You know.
Fine. So
The-
it's
yeah.
not some kind of, they don't exist in separate
That's
silos.
right.
Yeah.
So your currency note in your pocket is neither colored black nor white.
Right.
Therefore, black and white are
I
interchangeable.
want to ask you here
Yeah.
something very interesting. We in the Wire have carried an article by an economist, not an economist, a former revenue service tax officer who worked with the UPA government, subsequently joined the World Bank as advisor on tax policy, and as World Bank consultant, he was called by Mr. Modi, who was Chief Minister in 2013, and Mr. Modi had a half-an-hour meeting with him, and he relates that in an article in the Wire, where he says that Mr. Modi asked him to study a proposal by Arth Kranti,
Right.
which talked about 2 stages of economic revolution. First stage was demonetization on this scale, where you take away 90% of the existing currency and
Right.
replace it. The second stage is even more interesting. Second stage is that you remove all taxes,
Correct.
direct taxes, indirect taxes, state,
Right,
VAT,
right.
excise, and replace all the existing taxes with 1-2%
Banking transaction tax.
banking transaction tax. And according to Arth Kranti, it will, if our total tax collections today are 18 lakh crores, center and state together, that 2% on banking transaction tax will give you 18 lakh
Or even more.
Or even more.
Yeah, yeah.
Now, this appears stunning.
Yeah.
Most people don't believe such a thing could happen.
Right.
Many economists are even scared to sort of go near that to analyze it.
Yes.
So what is your take?
So my take is the Arth Kranti people had discussed this with me in 2013.
आपसे भी बात की थी उन्होंने, हाँ.
They had come. I had gone to Gokhale Institute to give talk,
Yeah.
and there some of them were there. They had come and asked me. They had given me their paper, and they were also influencing Baba Ramdev, who had also been pushing both these proposals.
And I'm told Mr. Modi is still looking at it. It's not as if it's off the table.
Right. So their proposal was that first you do the banking transaction tax and elimination, and then do the demonetization.
Okay.
That is what has happened is reverse. And that's why Mr. Bokel, who heads the Arth Kranti, he in an interview about 10 days back said this is not the way we would have done it. This is not the way we would suggest it. So in fact, they have also backed out of it. But the banking transaction tax of 2% on all transactions will be disastrous for the economy, because the entire financial sector will collapse.
Okay.
The margins in your stock market may be 0.1%, margins in the derivative market may be 0.01%. And if you levy a 2% tax on that, then you can imagine on 0.1%, if you levy a 2% tax, that's like putting a 200% tax on a transaction. So the share market would collapse. If you put on a derivative market where you get 0.01% margin, a 2% tax is like a 2000% tax. Okay, so the entire financial sector will collapse, the economy will begin to collapse. So I had suggested to them that this may also not work, and they would have to look at this proposal much more carefully than what they had done.
Okay.
So I don't think anybody sensible, just like anybody sensible should not have gone in for demonetization, because here for very little gain on the black economy front, you are affecting the entire white economy.
So you're saying the financial markets would collapse?
Financial markets could collapse as a result of a
2%
2% tax on the banking transaction tax. So they need to study the public finance much more carefully. What is the role of direct taxes, indirect taxes, why they are there, before they make some such suggestion. So there is like something like Tobin tax, which has been talked about at the international level to prevent international speculation. But that's a very tiny percentage of the profit that is made. Now, if you put a 2% on transaction,
Tobin tax itself would be very small.
very small tax on the profit that is made at international speculation. But if you were to put a 2% tax, that's a huge tax, especially for the financial markets.
You also don't sort of agree with the with the Arthakranti proposals?
Yeah,
at
yeah.
all?
I had tried to dissuade them and Baba Ramdev also of taking this kind of proposal on. But obviously they were quite influential with Mr. Modi. And I can see why Mr. Modi has gone in for something like this, a big bang thing. Because if you look at the last 2.5 years...
Do you think Mr. Modi will actually, at stage 2, first stage was demonetization, stage 2 he might go for some kind of a
I hope not, because this is not working out, and therefore he should know that the credibility of what was suggested was not quite good, and therefore should not go. But it's clear why Mr. Modi is doing this. All the steps that have been taken regarding the black economy have fallen flat in the last 2.5 years.
Sure, yeah.
So the SIT that was set up has not produced much result. The income declaration scheme has not produced much result. Then your scheme to this foreign money bill, that has not produced much result.
In fact, the foreign money bill didn't.
4,000 crores?
Yeah.
So that's less than $1 billion.
They had anticipated $500 billion outside the
CBI had said 500
from all
billion.
those accounts, HSBC accounts, what they got was some $1.5 billion.
Right. So basically, that those schemes have not been successful. So you needed something to show that there was success, and they thought this would be a big bang success, and that's why they thought that this could be done.
But you think this is completely backfired?
Completely backfired at the moment, because the gain that you'll make in terms of 0.1% of the black economy being demobilized, whereas all the mechanisms by which black incomes are generated, they continue. So if I'm a teacher and I'm doing tuition, that would continue. If I'm making spurious drugs, that would continue. If I'm a narcotic drug seller, that would continue.
Doesn't do anything.
So it doesn't do to check the
generation of
that's
black
right.
money.
So black income generation would continue. Black wealth demobilization may be 0.1%, which is not worth it. And the economy may have a downturn. Even if Mr. Manmohan Singh is right and there's a 2% decline in the rate of growth, that's a huge amount of money, right?
You're in the same camp as Amartya Sen, Paul Krugman, who are all saying that the disruption
Yes.
will be way more than any payoff that might or might not come.
So I discussed this in my Black Economy book in 1999, and I pointed out that this would be far more disruptive than any gain that you might make. And I've been teaching this since 1985 in my public finance course.
I wish Prime Minister Modi had read your book. Thank you very much, Professor Arun Kumar, for talking to us.
Thank you.